Hi, welcome to Shaky Sports Journeys. Thanks for joining. I'm looking forward to this podcast today, where I'm joined by special guest, ex Cricket Scotland leading wicket taker, Majid Haq. Assalamu alaikum. How are you?
Walaikum salam, Qasim. I'm good yourself.
Very well, thank you. Very well, thanks. Alhamdulillah. Um, we will be reviewing an in-depth review today of the just finished series between Cricket Scotland and Cricket Australia, a three-match T20 international series that was just played in Edinburgh, Scotland. Something that's never happened before, that you see a touring team like Australia come to play a series like that in Scotland. So we'll dive into that and have a look at those three games and give our thoughts on it. But prior to that, Majid, just thought I would touch on what you're doing with yourself these days. 2 seasons now you've been retired from playing cricket, I believe, if I'm right in saying. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, it's 3 seasons now.
3 seasons now. 3 seasons. Time flies. Time flies.
It does.
You're an umpire now these days. How you finding that?
Yeah, it's a big change. Obviously, being in the centre, I think it's gives you the best view of the game as well. And for me, it's something I really enjoy. Uh, but for me, it's great to see all the different players around Scotland as well. And I've come across a lot of really good players and people who I think I can push on to the next level, which is great.
You're an absolute cricket badger. You always have been. You know every single stat out there. You know who's done what, when they've done it, what year they did it in. But is that the main attraction for you then? Is you love watching cricket anyway, but the chance to be, as you say, standing best seat in the house. But in umpiring, as much as you want to enjoy it, the focus has got to be there as well. I mean, you've got to be watching the line for a front foot, no ball. You've got to make sure all the right people are in the ring.
Yeah.
There's quite a lot to be thinking about every ball.
Yeah, definitely. It's a tough job. You don't realize how tough it is until you actually do it. And then also being on your feet 7, 8 hours for the game as well. Obviously, as a player, if you go out, you go and sit on the bench and put your feet up. But as an umpire, you're out there for the 7, 8 hours. So for me, it's a really tough job as well. Sometimes you get a headache at the end of the day, for the amount of concentration you have to do, and sometimes. And a lot of the games this year, I was a single umpire as well, so you're doing both sides, so that's even tougher. And for me, it's I really hope we get more umpires coming through. I've said to quite a few people who are like in their 30s and 40s or who have stopped playing, how about coming and umpiring? But they keep saying no thanks. So like,
Why might they be saying no thanks?
I
I've
think
heard that. Is it not like something like £40 for a day
yeah,
and travel expenses?
yeah, you get travelling expenses 37p a mile. It's £40 for a 50 over game, and if you're umpiring by yourself, you get an extra £20. So you only get half of the other umpires'
Gonna
fee.
get half of the other
Yeah,
umpires. Okay, okay. Well, I
and
mean,
20 over game, you get £16. It went up from £15, so they put it up a pound a couple of
I
years
mean,
ago.
it's not. I mean, it's you're not going to really
No,
attract.
you never do it for the money, but obviously like it targeted at more people who are retired and stuff like that just do it as a pastime. It's a little bit of pocket money here and there, but obviously, like I'm a professional sort of guy, played cricket professionally, so like I look at a different point of view, more of a professional angle rather than like oh yeah, it's just amateur. So for me, I hope like you and like other people might even consider it in a few
I
years'
can
time.
assure you right now. I can assure you right now. There's no chance. If I'm a bit out of ground and somebody needs to step in as an emergency or something, I'll never say never. But yes, umpiring was never anything I ever thought about that I would do after the game. Coaching probably more my thing. But no, you stick to the umpiring. And aspirations wise, you want to try to take this somewhere.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, I want to get onto the ICZ panel and umpire at the highest level. So hopefully this year I get promoted further up the level. My performances have been good, and I just hope the powers that be move me up.
Well, be following closely. We'd love to see that happen. and you to go on and be an international umpire. So yeah, good to hear what you're doing with yourself. Although I think you're crazy standing there out for 8 hours in Scottish weather umpiring.
Especially yesterday, it was absolute bolting in Edinburgh.
Yeah. I mean, that's yesterday. I don't think I left the indoors. So
yeah. I watched a little bit of the Clydesdale Herries game. It was absolutely scorching in Glasgow. And just
no, let's just get
45
this
miles
out there
away.
now. We should be looking to build a stadium in Paisley. Is that right?
I said near Paisley, so it could be Glasgow. But on that subject, a stadium is a must for Scotland now. I think the World Cups, Scotland, Ireland, and England are hosting in 6 years' time. I think Ireland have already on the way to get building another stadium. So for me, I think it's a must for Scotland. We can't be still training at club grounds, playing at club grounds. We need our own purpose-built stadium and also indoor facilities. Something like on the Loughborough sort of level. We can't be training at the MES still on badminton courts that have been put in about 25, 26 years ago.
I agree. I do agree. It's going to happen. I mean, if we're going to be ever getting taken really, really seriously as an international cricket playing nation that wants to be competing with the top teams, then it's got to be. But I mean, you do think that how many football stadiums is there in Scotland? Even in the lower leagues, they've all got some sort of stadium. You'd like to think, Scottish sport could find some way of helping the cause and getting the funding in place to get a stadium made. But I don't know enough about that kind of stuff. But yeah, it needs to happen. It needs to happen at some point. And yes, I agree. Facilities wise as well, need better facilities for training. Okay, so let's get into these 3 games. Aussies have come to Edinburgh. Game 1 last week couldn't complain. Nobody could complain. Beautiful, lovely sunshine. I watched the game online on BBC Sport, which was great that they were covering it. Scotland batted first in the first game. Just quickly though, before we go into it, selection. I was surprised with the selection for the first game. What was your feeling in the first selection?
Yeah, I thought it was extremely poor selection. Yeah, obviously a 3-match series against Australia doesn't happen often. So you want to start and set the tone by picking your strongest possible side, and that wasn't the case in the first game. I understand Curry and Jones were playing for Durham, so and obviously Curry plays for Sussex, is it? So for me, yeah, I couldn't really understand the selection. Unfortunately, Chris O never played the first game, and Safian Sharif, who's like one of Scotland's best opening bowlers, and he's sitting on the bench. It's something I can't understand.
I totally agree with you. It's not just a small time series. This was a series that Scotland really needed to, challenge, show what they can do, because they want more fixtures like this. They want more teams like Australia to come here, take them seriously, and play 3-match fixture, three series fixtures like that. But I mean, looking at it, Davidson, young lad, Jasper Davidson, isn't it? And,
yeah.
I know the boy Castle did very well against Oman, but one thing playing Oman, he's only had one game, and then Jack Jarvis as well. 3 very young and inexperienced bowlers at that kind of level. None of them will have ever had that kind of exposure against those kind of players. Now, I'm not saying don't put them in against these teams, but to play all 3, yeah, I was very surprised. No Sol, no Safian, unless somebody tells me Sol wasn't at the ground either, but I believe him and Sapi would have both been there with the squad from game 1. Maybe put one of those youngsters into the mix, but surely you play your guy that bowls almost 90 miles an hour and your 3rd leading wicket taker of all time for the country. Surely you would go in with those players for that game.
Yeah, I completely agree. They never did, and they asked for trouble, and that's what they got. Australia scored a world record score in the power play, 113 for 1, beating the previous best was 102, so they've comfortably beat that.
Yeah,
they chased it. I think it was 9.4 overs, so almost 16, 17 runs an over. So yeah.
Travis Head fairly got hold of them. 80 off 25 balls, 12 fours and 5 sixes.
Yeah.
Now look, the guy is a freak player, so I'm not, but I'd like to think he wouldn't have gotten them off that many balls if he was facing probably some bit more pace and somebody with a bit more experience. Mitchell Marsh also got, but I mean, we'll get to that. But let's touch on the Scottish batting innings first of all.
Can I just come back to the bowling a second? I just thought, obviously, I feel for the lads who got hit around the ground, but I was really disappointed not to see any senior players come up to them and actually just say to them, just take your time. It's all right. This is a good balls can get for 4 or 6 against these top international players. But I just felt watching it on the television that hardly anyone actually came up to Jarvis, Castle, or Davidson when they were bowling. So they actually needed some help there from the senior players, which was lacking.
Very important for youngsters when they're coming into such a high pressure environment like that they do have the support of all their teammates around. So it's a fair point. It's a fair point to make if that's something that you noticed when you're watching. Batting lineup wise, I know Jones was not with the squad. He was obviously with the county. I mean, probably is kind of around their batting lineup at the moment. Munsey opening up with Hayes, Brandon McMullen at 3, Berrington at 4, Cross 5, Leask at 6, Watt at 7, and so on. But I think something that just stands out from when you look at that first scorecard, Munsey 28 was going well, 2 4s, 3 6s. McMullen 19, Berrington 23, Cross 27. They all kind of were able to get in. They weren't blown away, like, just not knocked over. They all got themselves in. But I think the trick and the crucial part there is that they've got themselves in, but not been able to go on.
Yeah, I completely agree with you there. Obviously, you're a batsman yourself, and coaches told you plenty over the years. 20s do nothing at international level, especially at this level. When you get in 15, 20, 30, you need to cash in and get 50, 60 plus. And obviously, that's what Australia did in all 3 games. Obviously, Head in the first game, Inglis in the second, and then Cameron Green as well in the third. So for me, that was a big difference between the teams as well in terms of the batting. Australia were never more than 4 down, and obviously Scotland were 9 down in the first game.
9 down in the first game,
and obviously 9 down in the third, and then all out in the second. So a 20 over game, that's pretty disappointing. You want to take responsibility as the top 6 and say, I want to be batting these 20 overs. I shouldn't be relying on 9, 10, 11 to come in and face the last 5 overs.
I agree. Yeah, too often we were getting to like the 12th, 13th, 14th over and kind of we're already up against it. And you've got, guys that are capable a bit down the order, like Mark Watt, who can hang around and start to construct their innings. But there wasn't really you couldn't really go after that. It was more a matter of let's try to get through the overs rather than that's when you should be obviously accelerating.
Because if you see back in June when they pushed Australia so close, they were 180 for 4. So that's like probably the prototype of what you want to see as a T20 innings. The top 6, 7, doing all of the 20 overs, not most of it. They should be doing all the 20 overs.
Majority of them, yeah. Majority of them. And then, okay, if it's the last maybe 2, 3 overs and you drop a couple of wickets there, fair enough. But yeah, to go kind of 5, 6 down at 10, 11 overs with so many overs still to go, you're always up against it. So that's certainly something that came through otherwise they're all going at pretty decent strike rates. They're scoring it well, but Munsey was 28 off 16. He was clearly hitting the ball well, but if he goes on and maybe gets a 50, 60 there, and the rest of the team can kind of go, then it makes a big difference total. Because I think 154, although that was I think the best score for them of the series, they 180, 190 I think was what they should have got on game 1. Whether it would have been enough or not, the way Australia went, but still, I think it would have been a good showing.
Just talking on Munsey, he got out twice in the last over before the end of the power play. So obviously he did well up until then, but he has to go a lot deeper than that into the 20 overs for Scotland to get a big total. Everyone wants to bat in the power play. That's where you can get your 4s and 6s with just 2 men out. But you've got to cash in more than after 6 overs.
Fair point. Bowling wise, that was another thing that was a standout. I mean, it was hardly Cummings, Stark, Hazelwood. Australia had brought some new bowlers. The ones that I recognised beforehand would have been Abbott, obviously Zampa, Stoinis, and Green. Meredith and Bartlett were newer bowlers to what I'd seen before. To be honest, I was quite impressed with all of them, but there wasn't any serious pace, I don't think, in the Australian attack.
I think Meredith is meant to be late 80s, 90.
Right, okay.
So
He was a kind of hustly.
He only
He's
played the
quite a
first game.
stronger for
I think he only played the first game. So yeah, I thought that Aaron Hardy looks like a good all rounder they've got.
Yeah, he did look like a good. I mean, they've got some Cameron Green looks like
Yeah.
a great player for the future. I think Inglis looks like he could be because they reckon he's up against Wade. Wade bats lower in the order. They say this guy can bat higher in the order. Looks a pretty
I think this guy's ahead of Wade now. Wade's obviously mid to late 30s now.
Yeah, he's falling away now.
Yeah,
So I think this is
late 20s, 30.
I think this is the future now. I think he's the man to do the job now. So going into second game, we had so second game, Australia. They were in a bit of trouble actually in this game early doors, although it didn't look that way from the scorecard at the end. But 196 for 4. We've just talked about him. Inglis was he dug his team out of a wee bit of a scrapey start because Curry came into the team. He's had an incredible start to his Scotland career. He just keeps taking wickets for fun. I mean, he's got a bit of a golden arm right now. Every time he bowls up top, he takes wickets, and he came out first ball. Travis Head cleaned them up, set the tone that here we go, the great Scottish comeback. We're right in this game.
Yeah, definitely. He's been a great find for Scotland. The ball he got Head was a beauty. Obviously, they must have watched the footage of Head in the first match, and any width to him. I'm talking about off stump. He just hits through point, cover, mid off. So obviously his ball was an absolute beauty. It jagged back and hit top of middle. So obviously did a bit of homework, but yeah, he seems like a really good find in the
You also got the other opener, Fraser McGurk.
Yeah. He was quite disappointing. We've heard a lot of
I think they've got big hopes for him, haven't they?
But his three games were really, really disappointing.
Yeah, 16 balls, 16 runs, 3 fours, caught Chris Sobel, Bradley Curry. So 2 early wickets for Scotland, which, and the conditions were perfect for Scottish bowling conditions. I mean, I was in Edinburgh and it was dark, really, really dark. I was surprised that they even got on. I thought it might be delayed a little. Yeah. So it was perfect conditions. But then Inglis and Cameron Green just kind of played second fiddle. And Inglis 103 off 49 balls, 7 fours and 7 sixes. I think he soaked up the pressure for about an over, and then as soon as he started going, he never stopped. He was very, very comfortable at the crease. So he's definitely somebody that looks like that's going to bat at the top of the order for Australia for quite a while to come. I reckon he could go up and open as well.
Yeah, he looks like he could bat anywhere, to be honest. I think he's a very versatile player, and I think Australia have got a quality player there.
Interesting, something that came from this innings was, so I think a far better bowling attack Scotland had out this time, bringing Curry in, left armour, bit more experience, playing at a high level as it is, has been doing well for Scotland. 4 overs, 3 for 37. Very good return against Australia at Grange. McMullen did a good job up top with the ball, 3 overs for 21.
That's a great job, Shiggy.
I know that is a great job, isn't it?
7 runs and over. I think him back bowling now has given Scotland an extra dimension.
Because he fell away.
I think he had an injury problem.
Right, okay.
And then now he's just coming back. So, but him back bowling now will add a lot to the Scotland team and gives them flexibility in choosing another pattern now.
Yeah. No, but you're absolutely correct. 3 overs for 21 up top. Great effort. Not so much can be said for the next 2. Wheel and Watt struggled a bit. Wheel went 51. Watt went for 44. But what really stood out for me in this innings is Chris Soule only bowled 3 overs when he was 1 for 17. Now, I think Ali Evans said something on commentary, like he backed Richie, and he said something like, he's just come back from injury. If he can't bowl 4 overs, then he's not fit enough to be playing the game. So is it that, or is the calculations not being correct by the captain? Because pretty criminal that he doesn't bowl 4 overs there.
I think he came on quite late on in the innings as well. But also that's poor captaincy from Richie. So for me, obviously Greaves had to bowl as well because he came back into the team. I think his 2 overs went for 26, was it 27?
26, 2 overs.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
but
I don't.
what's your thoughts on Greaves?
Nah, for me, he's had 1 or 2 good games. But
I think of the Bangladesh game. I actually did a podcast with him maybe the night after that, which was a great victory for Scotland against Bangladesh, when they qualified through the qualifier stages to play in the World Cup, and he scored. I think he's got 40 in the second innings, and it took. I might have got this wrong. He took a couple of wickets anyway, so he had a great outing, and he did a great job.
yeah,
How many years ago was that now?
it was 2021, so like
21.
maybe even earlier than
I
that.
can't think of any
Maybe 3, 4
performances.
years.
I can't think of anything beyond that that is
I
really.
think he just scored a few runs here or there, picked up a few wickets here and there. Once like the teams are 6, 7 down, so like then Richie's brought him in to finish off the tail.
Yeah.
But for me, like he's a bits and pieces cricketer. So, but for me, he's more of actually a bat than he is a bowler.
Yeah, I think so. I think he's probably a better batter than he is a.
But he's batting in like 7, 8. That's just not probably his game.
Not probably his game, because he's not really going to come in and really tee off. If he's going to bat, he needs to probably bat further up the order in a decent position, and that's not going to happen in that team. So, yeah, it's something that they need to look at. Obviously, Hamza has recently retired. You know, somebody like him, as far as I was concerned, from years ago, him and Mark Watt were going to form a really good partnership. I don't see the issue with having 2 left-arm spinners, 2 guys that turn the ball away from most right-handers when they're bowling. It's always going to be tricky. They're both a little bit different, and I just feel that would have been the perfect partnership. But now Scotland need to find, I think, another spinner who's of that kind of quality, and nobody springs to mind right now.
I think sometimes teams can get a bit preoccupied in picking a jack of all trades but master of none. So like for me, I love my specialists in the odd all-rounder here and there. So for me, in a T20, I still think you need specialist bowlers who you can trust when the pressure's on. And Hamza, in the matches he played, he had a wonderful career, considering he was in and out of the team and probably wasn't backed as much other players were. You can obviously look back to that Pakistan game. Never played the whole World Cup. Came in and was the best bowler in the team by a long, long way.
Opened the bowling as well against Babar and Mohammad Rabzan, 2 of the best batters, probably the best form they were in.
Yeah, they were in serious
form.
They were
dominating that tournament. They just beaten it. Was I think they beat India by 10, chased down without losing a wicket. And for him to come in and bowl like that, I just felt like that was going to launch his career. And he hardly played after that. And yeah, just on the bench, baffling. And now he's a young cricketer who's retired, which is disappointing. But yeah, Scotland are going to need to find another option.
What I found was really interesting was why the Least cannot bowl any of the games.
Yeah, I would wonder why he didn't bowl either.
Pretty well recently times.
Yep, I thought he did. I thought Least bowled really well in the last campaign that they just had when they were away in the World Cup as well. I thought he bowled really well, coming round the wicket to the right handers.
Because obviously they talk about matchups a lot. So like Head as a left-hander, you got a right arm off spinner, so they sometimes give the off spinner 1 over and see if they can get the lefty out. But he never bowled in all 3 games, which is
I was surprised with that. Unless it's something we don't know, and there's something wrong with his shoulder or something. But I mean, I seen him throwing the ball into the boundary a couple of times. He looked all right. So that is an interesting one. Why he didn't bowl? But look, it was good to watch Sol. I think I really enjoy watching him. We don't get a Scotland bowler often who bowls with that kind of heat. And he had a really nice rhythm about him. Hurried up a few of the Aussie batters, I thought. In particular, Stoinis played and missed at one of them that, you could tell there was good pace behind that. So it was good to see. But again, I felt like that attack, I mean, did you need to play Greaves? Could have played again, went with an all-seam attack. You had Leask anyway, but for some reason he wasn't bowling. And Mark Watt is your spinner. I just think it's just strange that he didn't play in the first 2 games. somebody with that kind of experience. And I've said so quite a few times on social media, because for me, it just I'm baffled by the decision to leave out that kind of experience with a bowler that's played, done it at that level.
Yeah.
So we've talked a lot there, but the one thing I want to highlight, and all of this, is when we come out for the Scotland chase, in the second game, Brandon McMullen, yet again, standout performer in what was again a pretty disappointing batting card. Munsey again gets in 19 off 9 balls. So he's not struggling with the way he's seeing it, but keeps probably giving his wicket away. Michael Jones got out early, which was a gutter. I like watching him play. He's a classy player.
Yeah, he is.
But Brandon McMullen, 59 off 42, 4 sixes to go off the back of what he did against Australia in the World Cup as well. I'm very, very, very excited by him, and I love watching him bat.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I think he's a superb addition to the Scotland team, and I think he just qualified a couple of years ago from South Africa. So for me, he's a proper player. He's probably one of the best players I've seen in a long time. I think he's,
so me and you debate
bright future. He's definitely
bright future. I mean, I think it's more as not just as a skill. You look at everything with a player, his maturity, his kind of he always looks quite calm at the crease, doesn't ever look phased by anything. So you look at all these different elements of a batter, and he seems to have all of it. And when it's there to hit, he doesn't have that self-doubt. He fully backs himself. So it's been interesting, because on this subject, I've been debating with a few people. I think I upset some people as well with my views, but I say, so Brandon is going to be coming on 25 years old.
Yeah.
And I've been saying, look, he's got a long way to go before he reaches these same records, but probably two of Scotland's most successful batters, Kyle Coetzer and Callum MacLeod. But my point is, at 25 years old, were they scoring 3 T20 50s against Australia in a one calendar year? I don't think so.
No chance.
No, they were. I mean, and for a Scottish batter to be doing that against Australia in the one calendar year is something to get excited about, because Scotland have never had that type of player at that level who can consistently score like that against players like that Australia have.
Yeah, definitely. It's the way he plays his shots that is just so controlled. It seems like pace doesn't worry him either. He just seems like anyone bowling, he can pull off the front foot, which is amazing to see, and well in front of square as well.
Well in front of square, yeah.
So that's a sign of a top class player.
Looks pretty handy against spin as well.
Yeah, he looks pretty good against spin. So for me, I think he just comes across quite like a modest, nice guy. He's not got a big ego or strut around like some people do. So for me, I think it's good when nice kids like that are performing at a high level. And people might say, you got 250s against Australia as a bit of an inexperienced attack, but remember his innings at the World Cup when they had their full attack? that was a serious innings.
I remember it very well, because I was commentating on it on TMS, and I was so excited. I was so excited. Like every time he hit a shot, it's just, you can just see he has a class about him. That is levels above anything else that Scotland has at the moment, and I think we can comfortably start to talk about him as one of the, if he stays fit and he plays the same amount of time, Callum and Kyle did it and played over a long period of time. But if he keeps playing like that, I think he's well on his way to being, one of Scotland's
shots are effortless. The way he times the ball,
effortless.
It's just he's not obviously a big guy, but the way he times the ball is beautiful, so pure. His shots.
He has. He's
very pleasing in the eye to watch.
And you just mentioned, just before we go on to this, he also brings so much to the team. He can run in and open the bowling for you. He took an amazing catch in the third game, I think it was, at back point. Yeah. He's clearly he's a top fielder as well. Yeah. Seems like you've mentioned a few times, as I've watched a few of his interviews, I've heard him speak. He's a very humble, down to earth, just simple guy. Anybody I've spoken to who knows of him, I've never actually spoken to Brandon McMullen. Anyone who knows of him or spoken to him, I've always said I've always heard very, very, very nice kid. So
I definitely think.
all the best to him. All the best to him.
I think Scotland should build their team around him as well now. He's at that perfect age. I think they should say, like, we're going to build a team around you. Because obviously the Scotland team, Richie is now 37, 38. There's a few other guys who are approaching 34. So, like, I think it's time to maybe refresh the team a little bit. But I think it's not against Australia you do, though. Refresh your team. That's when you win. You know, your proven performers like Safia and Chris Soule and guys like that. So for me, in the World Cricket League, which is like a long-winded tournament, I think they play about 40 matches before the tournament's complete over 3 years.
Try and test. Maybe try and plug some new talent.
I think they've got a tour next month to America.
Okay.
So hopefully the squad will probably get announced soon, and hopefully we see some fresh faces into that team.
I think there's certainly places there that, you know, middle order in particular I look at in the Scotland batting lineup. I think middle order could do with a couple of new batters to be coming into that side soon. And I do think they need to be trying to get a new spinner to back up Watt as well. And the other problem is they don't always get the players available. I mean, so guys what played for their counties above playing against Australia up in Edinburgh. Baffled by that decision and disappointed in the counties that you wouldn't allow your player to go away and play a T20 international against Australia. Mental. As a player, surely you would always want to play in the international fixture. It is what it is. So that was kind of game 2. Again, nothing really to get excited about in game 2. It was a pretty, again, you know, as all the fixtures ended up being, they were very one-sided. I think about that stage where Curry got a couple of early wickets in the second game. I thought they were in a game there, but Inglis took the match away from them. And then you come into this third game, yet again, Brandon McMullen again. Again, George Munsey gets a start. 25 off 17, 1 fours, 2 sixes. So look, I don't want to be too critical of the guy because the guy is clearly hitting the ball cleanly, but there has to be a wee bit maybe more game awareness that he maybe just zones it back in as he comes to the end of a power play and maybe realises that, because if he bats another 4 or 5 overs, I think it makes a big difference to Scotland getting deeper into their innings, because he looked every time I watched him bat, he looked comfortable at crease. He's hitting the ball cleanly, but he also 3 times gave his wicket away.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think obviously we rate George Munsey highly, that we think that he should be doing a lot better than he is. Because for me, if I was a coach, I would say to him, like, you just done all the hard work, and then you gift it back to them over before the power play finishes. Like after the power play, the field would have spread, so he would have been able to play his sweeps against the spinners and stuff like that. So for me, he's got to carry on longer than 6 overs. So
because we didn't even get to see him play, like, face Zampa, for instance. I think, I mean, you've seen what he did to Adil Rashid in the World Cup. So you know, if he just sat for a few more overs, I think he could have cashed in a few more towards the middle of the innings. Because again, he doesn't. He looks so comfortable. He looks like he can. He's not fazed by it. He takes these guys on. But yeah, 25 is not really going to. 25, 19, 28 is not going to change the result of a game against Australia. They need to be 50, 60 to allow your team to set up a good goal.
He's like one of the senior players in the team now. He's 31, 32. So like he should really be like knowing his game and the game awareness and everything. But I think he needs to really show a bit more maturity in some of his shots.
All he hears is, like, for me, fantastic talent. Definitely one of the best strikers of a cricket ball in Scotland, hands down. Seen him play some unbelievable knocks. But who were those unbelievable knocks against? My thing with all he hears is, I think you put him out against an Oman tomorrow, or you put him out against any of these teams, he'll absolutely destroy them. I'm just yet to see him do it at this kind of level. Maybe I'm wrong, because like in this game he actually started to look okay. He hit a 4 and a 6. and he looked like he was starting to get going. But then the shot to get out was, yeah, I think he's better. Either he has to give himself a little bit more time, or maybe that's just the message. You just go out and absolutely heave it, and we don't care what happens. But I just feel like need a bit more of a better game plan at the top.
He's a much better player than that, than just to go out there and have a swing. He's not. He's a proper bat ollie, but like as we talked about, Brandon, his shots are so pure, and like it's no slogging or overhitting. It's just technically correct and sweet
He also
timing.
soaks up a bit of pressure, Brandon. He had a few stages, and even when he was getting 50, that he had to, play the mist a few, have to block a few, but he doesn't get flustered by that. He just gets onto the next ball.
Sometimes you have to respect some good bowling at times. Sometimes you can't just go and swing aimlessly at times. So you have to actually respect the ball.
100%. Richie will not look back too fondly on this series. So my thoughts on Richie were going into the World Cup. I was concerned about Richie. I actually was starting to think, he wasn't getting runs for quite a while. I started to feel maybe he was, he is, what is he? You've mentioned they're 37 now, coming on 38. He's getting on a bit in his career now. But then he played, I thought, really well in the World Cup. He batted well against Namibia to see his team home as captain. And then I thought his knock against Australia was one of his better knocks playing for Scotland. So he kind of just put to bed all that I thought, he was coming finding his form again. But this was not a series that he didn't look too comfortable at the crease. They talked about it actually on commentary. His first knock in the first game, he just seemed out of sorts. Wasn't finding a rhythm, but it just didn't happen for him at all in this series.
No, he definitely struggled. It looked like he was late in some of the balls at times, and so for me, obviously playing against Australia, you have to also put that into perspective. This is almost probably the hardest cricket you play. So for me, coming from playing teams like Namibia and Oman and playing against Australia, regardless of Australia missing 3 or 4 of their best bowlers, it's still a big challenge. So for me, I do think we need to find a bit of a gap, because I think the Scotland players are probably bored playing against, like UAE, Namibia, PNG, Oman. Like they want to be challenged, so they need to. I think there's be bringing in two like leagues, like the top.
It'd be good to see them playing more cricket against Ireland, Holland, these kind of countries.
Obviously,
all just waiting below to try to challenge the bigger countries. But these countries like Oman, they seem like a step. Watching them in the World Cup, they're not at the same level as Scotland and Ireland and Holland are. Like their fielding, their movement in the field, just they're all getting on a wee bit in age. So I don't think too much time should be spent playing against those teams, because you can sometimes get a wee bit deluded as well.
You can get a bit comfortable.
Maybe so much better than you are, and then you come up against some other nations that are slightly better, and then you get found out. But you're right, it's a big jump, like to go from Oman to coming out. That's why I thought like the selection of Castle, like no disrespect to the boy, he took 7 wickets, amazing achievement. I'm sure he'll go on to do well for Scotland in other games. But then to just think, was he going to go out and get 7 wickets against Australia, or hit them that hard? Or I just thought they could have been wiser in that first game of the bowling selection. But overall, Australia in this game, we'll just finish off talking about this game. In the last game, again, they chased it pretty comfortably, didn't they? Cameron Green this time got 62, not out. Mitchell Marsh got a 30, and David at the end, who hits the ball hard. Like he hits it far away.
I think there was one ball he hit that made incredible.
I think it was somewhere in Edinburgh. I think that ball was somewhere in Edinburgh.
He's ground, I think it's probably a 120-meter hit. It's just it made an absolute crunching
noise. Nice cricket bat he's got. But Cameron Green, he impressed me a lot in this tour. He looks like a really kind of mature player at a young age that looks like he's going to be quite a handy all-rounder for Australia. Nothing kind of X factor about him. He's just kind of good at what he does. He looks just good at what he does. He runs in, bowls what looks like a reasonably heavy ball comes from a big height, and then he looks a really proper player. who could just kind of go through the gears. So I thought he was impressive. And then bowling wise for Scotland, Brandon again follows up his score, 3 overs for 23, which again superb
That's
numbers.
brilliant. 3 overs in the power play and he's gone for less than 8 over. Can't ask for anything more.
And then Curry again, 3 overs, 2 for 20, gets Travis Head again. I mean, he was a success story of this big success story of this series. He was in previous series as well when he came in. I think he played his first game. We went to watch that game. Very friendly Grange. We went to watch the game, and we
had a few evil eyes that day.
There was ever so slightly. And he bowled his first hit, and he got a few wickets that day as well. And from watching him at the ground, you could tell that a wee bit of shit, not much pace, like maybe late 70s. But he clearly puts the ball in the right area and he moves it around. Very typical county seamer, but it's coming from the left arm angle. So he did very well. Sol again, 3 overs for 1 for 28, good return. Safi, 2 overs for 20. I thought Safi's first over was quite good. He was starting to find his rhythm. I think he went for 9 runs his first over, and then he got taken out the attack. I don't know if that's like part of planning these days, but I would hate to bowl 1 over and just come off. I bowled for very long, but would you not at least want 2?
Yeah, definitely.
Got your rhythm. I think 20 bowlers have got to be used to it these days.
I think he actually bowled better than 2 overs or 20. It was actually good watching him on TV. He looked like he had good rhythm and ran in like Safi of old, like he had a point to prove. So like it was quite good to watch him bowl, and hopefully he's still got a couple more years in him.
We hope so. I mean, he's always kept himself fit. He's very fit. He's very fit, athletic guy, Safi. So we'll watch on to see how many more years he can play. Jack Jarvis played again. Again, two overs for 22. He's had a bit of a tough introduction but you know what? He knows now. He knows now what that level is all about, and maybe an experience like that will help a youngster like that to know what they're going into. But I feel like he was just chucked in there in that first game. There was a bit too many players chucked into a deep end they'd never been into before, and I was a bit surprised by that. I would have felt that if you've gone 2-0 down, the third game would have been the game to start to play around with your team a little bit.
I think he's definitely somebody to keep an eye on. So I think he's got genuine all-round ability. So for me, I think it's somebody they should stick with.
He looks good. I mean, he hit a 6 in the first game when he came into bat. So he can clearly bat. I think he looks pretty handy in the field. It's a big ask to come in and bowl against Australia at the Grange. I mean, he's a medium pacer.
I think he also bowled in the power play as well in the first game.
Yeah, I haven't checked that, but you probably did.
I think he did.
Maybe I'll be right. But definitely one to watch for the future. I think the one that will be a bit disappointed. And look, everybody has a little bad patch there because he's always normally getting raved about, and that's Mark Watt. He didn't have one of his better series. But again, I'm not going to be harsh on him because he's probably been one of Scotland's most consistent performers. He's been superb. Seems like he's been around for so long. Just looks like. I mean, he seems like he's been around for so long. But yeah, not one of his better series. But
I don't know whether like the first game sort of put him off a little bit because like the umpires gave 2 dead balls.
Yeah.
So I don't know because obviously that's
what's your take?
That's a tactic he uses quite a lot
in this tour. But that first one, what would you have done?
Just the top of my head, I think the first one to Ingles, I think Ingles just was tapping, then he looked up and he bowled. So I think you need a bit more time than just like look up and the guy bowls. So, but I think for the Stoinis one, I think Stoinis had a bit more time than Ingles. I think Stoinis was just
doing a bit of drama.
Being a bit of drama. And I don't think Watty bowled many of those balls in the other 2 games, which is something that he
big part of what he.
I think they were talking in commentary. They might decide to change that law or something, so that might affect his bowling. So, but I think the first one, when you just look up and he's gone.
When the bowler gets to the top of the mark, the batter should be ready.
He wasn't at the top of the mark though. He bowled from beside the umpire.
I know, but he's still got when the bowler gets to the top of their mark to start running in, batter should be ready.
Yeah, I suppose you can say that as well.
Yeah, you should be ready.
I think it's very tough for Ian McDonald, who's just obviously this is probably the biggest games he's ever umpired. So it was
chucked in at the deep end. Chucked in at the deep end.
I think he did really well. I think he did really well, but I think he was backed up by. I think I read somewhere on Crick Info that he applied the laws perfectly.
Well done, Ian McDonald. Is this Ian McDonald from Stenhousemuir?
Yes.
The office. The office that never used to turn.
He was
more like a medium pacer. Congratulations, Ian. I mean, what an experience to go and get to umpire in a series like that against Australia. I'm sure you'll be better off for an experience like that. There was some other interesting decisions. There was an LB shout that you posted actually on X, where I was watching it live at the time as well. Zampa bowls the ball to Richie. Plum LBW, it's hitting middle, knocking them all over. And the umpire decided that it wasn't out. And then what I found even more entertaining was the fact that Ali, and on commentary, then said, yeah, Richie's really good at getting outside the line. And I was like, definite. And he was saying that Charlie Tier wasn't able to do that yesterday, but Richie's been able to do it today. And I'm just sitting thinking, he didn't get outside the line. And I think a co-commentator, Melinda, then said, I don't know about that, but yeah, that was
the funniest thing is
Ali trying to look after his old chum Richie.
The funniest thing is though, obviously I umpired Ali a couple of times, and when he's bowling, LBW is out when he's bowling, and when he's batting, he's never at LBW. He's a bit like
well, his excuse could be
he's a bit like the Scottish Stuart Broad.
Ali's excuse could be that I'm very tall and it's going over the top. If I was tall and I got hit LBW, that's what I'd always say, going over the top. But I couldn't use that excuse because I was short. But yeah, it was all just about.
I think Ali would have loved the DRS when he bowled. I think he would have referred everything. He's a bit like me in that regard.
So the commentators were certainly talking highly of Scottish cricket. It was certainly a lot of PR going on there.
Yeah, I think so. From listening to the three matches,
yeah,
I think they knew quite a lot of information, or been possibly fed. I think at one stage they even mentioned that Australia were meant to be going to Cricket Island and playing 3 games, and then I think Trudy's obviously got into Cricket Australia's ears and got them over to us. So that's one the Irish won't be happy with.
Oh, that's good effort. Good effort by I don't have any issue with us getting one over the Irish. So yeah, that's all good. Look, I thought it was great to see. My family went and watched the 3rd game. They really enjoyed it. It was a nice little atmosphere in the ground, but it's always a pretty small crowd. I mean, what are you talking? 2,000 people, 2,500 people. It'd be great if Scotland could get a stadium and get start to push bigger numbers, get 10,000 people in a stadium. But that can only happen when you've got the facilities to do it.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think it'd be brilliant if you had our own stadium, and then from there you could obviously get bigger crowds and more people at the game. I think more people would come from other parts of the UK to watch Australia play.
I think so as well. So, hopefully that's something that we see in the near future, because we are hosting World Cup matches and not too long.
Yeah.
It would be good for something like that to happen, because I do think the Grange is a great. I mean, I love playing at the Grange. You would have played so many. We played Australia. What year would that have been? 2010, and it just it's for a Scottish player, it is still your stadium. It is the best. It's the best thing you've got. But really, it's a club ground that is turned into some sort of venue for an international fixture for the day. Look, beautiful venue. It really is. I've always loved playing at Grange. But yeah, Scottish cricket needs something that's more of a stadium, more the home of Scottish cricket, and I hope that happens in the near future. pretty much brings us to the back end. You know, I would say overall, Scotland will be disappointed. I'm not criticising that they lost 3-0 to Australia. Far from it. That would just be silly. Scotland does not beat Australia in an international fixture. In fact, I heard somebody say it recently for a long time ago. So even if we had won one game, it would have been a good effort. So there's no shame in losing 3-0. I think it's more the fact that we lost all 3 games pretty easily.
Yeah.
It was very one-sided. They've got to be a bit disappointed with that. I don't think it'd be it's harsh to say that there should have been a bit more challenging in some areas. And I think a lot has got to be looked at with the batting lineup, to be honest, as well, that they haven't scored enough runs.
Yeah, no, I think you're spot on there. I think obviously we had big expectations of Scotland to maybe sneak a win at least. You obviously called this Scotland squad 3 months ago the best Scotland squad of all time, but by a country mile.
You know what? I'm glad. I am glad that you have mentioned this right now. So yeah, 3 months ago I was on commentary. I think it was after. Did I say it after the Scotland-England game, or was it after? I said it maybe during the Australia game, and I said I think this is the best Scotland squad that there has been. And you've been piping up and you've been chucking that one at me at every opportunity since I said that. But here's my point behind it, okay? Here's my point. When have we gone to play against teams like that in World Cups like that and had the actual had the confidence that we're going to compete and to compete like that? I haven't seen it. And not against those countries in particular, England and Australia. And I got excited by that. I think when you're in the commentary box as well, it's quite weird. You know, you get I commentate with like passion flowing through me, so I kind of live the moment. And I think I was feeling excited. You know, we're taking on these countries and we've got no fear. And I said it. Look, I think that I think this team has probably just shown that maybe that statement was incorrect, judging by the way they played in this series. But if I'd ask you the same question when they played against England or when they played against Australia at the World Cup, people might feel a bit differently. But I think it's got the potential to be the best Scotland squad, but it needs some work. Okay, they might not be the best Scotland team of all, but I think on their day they can be. I think it's just a wee bit more kind of game awareness and playing some situations better when you find yourself in those situations, because it's only small margins for error at that level. Would you agree or would you disagree?
I still think that they've got a bit to go. Obviously, the World Cup was really good.
Are you going to give it? It wasn't like that, my time.
They beat Oman and in Namibia. They pushed Australia very close, but how often do you see an Australia team drop 7 or 8 catches in 20 overs?
I wasn't going to
almost felt like the Australian team were just chilling and they almost wanted
England to go through. Yeah. Let's not say that. Let's just say that Scotland scored 180 against Australia and they ran them close in a World Cup game. The scorecard doesn't say that they dropped 7 catches. So we just call it for what we see in front of us. But you're right. Australia were not at their best that day, clear to see. But that's not Scotland's problem. Scotland's problem was to go out there and capitalise on whatever chance or opportunity you get. And I thought they did that very well in that game. And I felt like it was a game, like these 3 fixtures we just watched, I never felt at one point Scotland had any real foot in the game. They were always behind.
Yeah.
Whereas in that game, up until about the last 6 overs, it was Scotland's game. So that's what I'd hoped we'd get a bit more from this series, where we'd be going into the final stages of the game and it would still be competitive. But none of the games were. They were all
I felt like Australia could have shifted gears if they wanted to as well. I felt like they were playing within themselves. Obviously, the temperatures were nowhere like the way they are in Australia in the 30s. I think it was like 16 degrees in Edinburgh, misty, overcast. It was perfect Scottish conditions for an upset. And you've seen the Australian, a lot of the staff and the players walking around with beanies on.
I can't imagine they were enjoying the temperature too much. But I mean, it was true. Every time Scotland threw a punch at them in the match and tried to, take a scalp or do something, they seemed to just pat them back down again quite quickly and never really let them get any sort of momentum. So overall, you know, a disappointing series, but that's not the point of view that Scotland lost 3-0. You know, we're not sitting here deluded and going to criticise them for losing 3-0 to Australia, whether it was Australia missing out a lot of the top players or not. Australia have got so much talent, pool of talent to come from. I think your old pal Bruce Patterson summed it up to you on your Twitter. What was he said? Australia 400 million, Scotland 1.5 million.
Really? I never seen that. Sorry,
I seen his response.
really? Okay.
It's a fair call, to be honest. There is a massive comparison. So, but I think we just probably, I think all the players would acknowledge that, coaches would acknowledge that we probably let ourselves down a little.
It's different. We're saying obviously we're disappointed. I'm sure the players are even more disappointed than us. They were probably got higher expectations than us. So
you'd like to think so.
It came from them that they were disappointed. They never really played their best game. I think if they played their best game,
pre-series, I seen an interview with Michael Lease where he was saying, you know, we want to try and win the series.
Yeah.
I'd want him to be saying that as an international cricketer representing his country, and so they obviously went in with that belief. Yeah. So if they went in with that belief and lost 3-0, then they're going to feel that.
I think
a massive opportunity.
I think Mark Watt said as well, we want some blood.
That was brilliant. We smell blood, and I think that Travis Head actually commented, didn't he? And he said that he heard it and on the bus on the way, and then said something like, "All right, then let's go." Yeah. And then he fairly went 80 off 25 balls. To let Mark Watt know that he wasn't smelling any blood. But it's been just fun to see Australia in town and playing some cricket in Scotland. And I really hope, the one thing I never understand is why do England never come and do this, or why do we never get to go to England and play? I mean, there's a drive down the road. Be great if, you know, we got to play like little series like that, three matches. It would do so much for Scottish cricket, and to bring the next, you know, talent, youth players through into that level, because the jump is just too much. Yeah. It's such a big jump that you can't expect people to go from playing Oman to performing against Australia as well.
Or playing Eastern Premier League and the Western Premier Division.
Yeah, that's true. It's not quite the level to prepare for that level of cricket, and neither is the regional stuff. Let's not fool ourselves. It's not up to that. It's not up to that level. So you need fixtures against these bigger countries. It would be great if every summer we could get somebody to come and tour and play 3 matches like that. But I'd also like to see Scotland try to go and tour some other countries as well, go out of their comfort zone a little bit more, get them over to Afghanistan, get them out there playing in a series. That'll toughen them up. Just to finish on, Majid, obviously a lot's happened in the last couple of years. We're kind of in a weird place just now. There was a lot of PR and stuff coming across in the last 3 days where, you know, there has been a lot of issues when it came to institutional racism in Scottish cricket, changing the boundaries. We've had about 3 or 4 different CEOs. We've had a chair incoming. We've had chairs leaving. But just now seems like a bit of a weird moment. It just feels like cricket is moving on without really acknowledging the wrong that's happened, and it's all of a sudden a PR about everybody's together and we're all moving in the right direction, and I think I think you need to be able to sit down and have open dialogue, listen, and really take it on board and then put things into practice. And I just feel like cricket is still very defensive on any topics like this, and still just wants to try and deflect that there's any issues.
Yeah, I agree with you. There's obviously so much going on in the background that we can't always talk about. So for me, I've heard so many times, it's time to draw a line and let's move on. But you have to get justice for the people who put in the complaints. And it was quite disappointing to see a lot of the old guard back at the Grange the other day. I think it was quite.
Did you get an invite?
Nah, nothing this time. Nothing this time. No Shaheen freebies this time, unfortunately.
No Shaheen. You know, I thought it would be a good opportunity for you to be invited. But yeah, I guess not. Look, it's I just always feel like to go through everything that's happened in the last couple of years, I just don't want it to be for not that, I just, it wasn't, nothing happened. I really just want to see change and see things change. And all I've seen since then is there was two South Asian cricketers in the national team. One is now since retired. One not getting a game in the first couple of games of this series when he's thirdly leading wicket taker. I really wish people would just try and understand what the point we're trying to make, because all we've had over the last 2 years is how there's no issue here. And this, there is no institutional racism, and it's unfortunate that, people have those closed minds and don't understand that these issues exist. Until you're really willing to acknowledge that they exist and listen and learn, it's pretty difficult to move on. All we really want to see is everybody feeling included and getting a fair opportunity.
Yeah, completely agree with you. I think everyone should be getting together, but until justice gets done, then I think it's going to be very difficult to get everyone round and have a sort of harmony.
Yeah. But like finishing on a positive note, 3 great fixtures in Edinburgh between Australia and Scotland. Commiserations to the Scotland team. We would have hoped that you would have challenged a little bit more in 1 or 2 of those fixtures, but look, hope they learn from it. Hope they get those type of experiences again on home soil to play against such opposition. And thank you as ever for joining me. What are you going to do with yourself in the winter now that you're not umpiring every single weekend?
I'm just going to be busy playing tennis now. So
who do you think you are, Pete Sampras?
No, I just enjoying. You have to keep. Obviously, I stopped playing cricket now, so I need to find something else. Otherwise, you lose that sort of.
You're playing competitively, though, aren't you? But you're playing competitively.
Yeah. So tennis is going well. And talking about umpiring in tennis, they don't have any umpires, so it's players umpiring, and sometimes there can be issues. So I sometimes think some of the players are quite lucky to have umpires for club matches.
Yeah, that's true.
So
that's true.
I've been a couple of times this
year.
I
might need to take you on sometime soon.
Yeah, no problem.
Although I know I can't beat you. I've played you at badminton and I've played you at tennis, and I always think I'm going to win, but I never do. Well, listen, we'll get a game sometime. Been a pleasure. Thank you for joining me. Fun to chat this through, and we'll do some other stuff.
Can I just wish the Scotland under-19s all the best this week? They're playing 2 50-over games against England under-19s and 2 50-over games against Ireland under-19s, which is amazing for those kids to be playing down at Loughborough as well. So great facilities for them. I wish them all the best, and hopefully they come back with a few wins.
That's a couple of excellent fixtures, isn't it, to get England under-19? While we're on it, good luck to the women's national team as well. Also who qualified for the Women's World Cup for the first time. So that's also exciting time for Scottish cricket. On that, I think the under-19s, I
think as well.
The women's under-19s, they're going to the World Cup as well, aren't they?
I think so.
That's brilliant. I mean, that's fantastic.
That's a lot of positive stuff.
That's a lot of positives to see in Scottish. Scottish cricket has got so many positives and so many things to.
There's so much talent in Scotland. I don't think actually people realise how many quality players there are.
From all over Scotland, from all different backgrounds,
exactly.
And I think what we're fighting for, and what we've spoken about, is that all of those people get an equal opportunity. And that's all we want to see. Pleasure, Majid.
Thank you.
We'll speak soon.